Could you introduce yourself a little bit, just saying who you are, where you're from?
Sure, so my name is Melissa and I'm originally from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I first moved to China in 2007, 2008, and I was living in central China. Initially when I came in 2007, I was working in Wuhan on advice of my brother, and I worked at the same school he did, and then once I got here things just evolved a little bit more surprisingly than I expected. I started doing TV shows, and sometimes I'd have some of my students ask, "Hey, was that you on TV the other day?" When I came back in 2010, I moved to Shanghai, where I have a real adult professional job. I'm working in marketing and strategy for a major multinational IT firm. You know, you have people who move overseas because they're asked or because they want to try something different and they just want that one opportunity. But for me, it's just a constant thirst for learning about different cultures. How do people live differently? How do they think differently?
If you were to describe your experience as an expatriate in Shanghai in 3 sentences, what would that be?
I think the main word would be excitement. But I'd say excitement in terms of absolute fun. I'd say excitement in terms of having many near-death experiences all the time, anytime. And I'd say excitement just being part of this very critical moment in China where they've finally come out. They're making their mark in the world, and they've gone from the times of being the producer to being the one to copy, the one to revere. So that would be my word, but that would be how I'd describe it. So,
was there anything that struck you specifically about this place?
To be honest, I didn't want to go to Shanghai at the beginning. I was a little bit of a snob, and I thought, oh, well, the real China is in central China. It's not in Shanghai. Shanghai's too international. I also had the thought, which is still quite true, is that Shanghai, it's a wonderful city, it's exciting, but it seems more like a devil's paradise. I mean, people can be obsessed with money here, the things you can get away with, just sometimes it's very hard to calibrate your life here. But living here is very dynamic. You can't keep up with it. You can't keep fast enough, you can't keep slow enough. It's just always one-upping you or slowing down where you don't think it is. So it's just like every day is a new challenge.
Was there something like a culture shock to you when you arrived?
Every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
In what sense?
When you come here, it's completely different from what you know. I've lived in Europe before, I've lived in Canada for a very long time, and I've traveled to many other places. And I'd say nowhere else in the world have I had to really adapt as much as in China. The way you eat, the way you cross the street, the way you talk, the way you ride your bicycle. You completely have to think like a local and adapt that way. Otherwise, really, you'll die from starvation, or you'll die from crossing the street the wrong way, or forgetting that sidewalks are always uneven. And I always used to laugh when I used to trip on the sidewalk, because I said every time I did it, no matter how good or how bad my life was, I had that experience, like I really felt like I was going to hurt myself badly, but because it was, such a jump, I always felt like it woke me up a bit and reminded me that I was alive.
What is it you would say you like least about Shanghai, and what is it that you say you like most?
Shanghainese culture, they can be very money driven sometimes, unfortunately, and so you look at the prices you're paying for things here and you wouldn't even pay that back home, but you sort of feel like you have to because that's the prices they've set, and the trouble to argue over it is just not worth it. I'd also just say that there are, unfortunately, it's China-wide, there are some people who are still quite traditional and what, as Western we'd consider rude or disgusting or sort of, you kind of want to shield away from. Those are just things that I'd prefer not to see. And I think it's true of most foreigners, and I think it's very true of the new China that those are things they wouldn't like to see. And what do I like the most? The city itself. I used to live in a more traditional area. When I moved there, I was still under the impression that I was a real pioneer and I could tough it out in real China. And then when I moved to this apartment, I started to realize that I really loved living in Shanghai. You have relics from Ming Dynasty, from Shanghai architecture, from Western powers. You also have a very local culture that's very vibrant. I just say it's the city itself, not the people. The history behind it and just the feeling of it, the vibe, the pulse of it.
Any moments where you miss home?
Of course, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't. People most. Canada-wise, when I see how fast things move here, I can't tell you that I miss being back in Canada. Maybe perhaps I've gotten too used to seeing this much dynamism in the city. Yeah, it would just be the people, I think. But I am proud to be from Montreal, that's for sure. Yeah.
Watch the entire interview on whatsitlike.tv. Our interviewee shares personal experience about all aspects of living abroad. For example, what's it like to integrate and make friends? What's it like at work and in business? What's it like to live in the city? What's it like to bring a partner and kids? We have prepared for you hundreds of candid, real-life accounts of expatriates who are actually there. It is almost as if you call them directly. See you on whatsitlike.tv and get all your answers before you move.